Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Schneider Electric Amigos Green. We're going to be talking about agri-tech today. This is an issue which is becoming increasingly important to governments around the region, especially in the Gulf, and we are joined by two experts from Madar Farms. They are a leader in this space based in the UAE. I'm very, very happy to introduce Haifa Al Rashid. She is a brand manager, and also as well, Kyle Wagner. He is the head of operations. Haifa, let me ask you a question first of all. What is agri-tech? What is this all about?
Well, first of all, thank you, Alex, for having us today. I guess like the short and sweet answer for your question is that agriculture embracing technology. And why we do that is not only to increase the efficiency across the supply chain, but also to improve the environmental impact of agriculture.
And how does it look? I've seen these big vertical farms. You know, what does it look like when you go inside one of these buildings or one of these plant factories, as they call it?
So if you look at indoor farming or vertical farming, when you walk into a building that's been designed for this, you'll see something you probably haven't seen before. So it's going to typically look like a large-scale logistics or storage warehouse with multiple rows and layers in those rows of greens growing vertically. If you look a bit closer, you'll see the LED lights are powering the growth. It's one of the big things that we do differently versus a greenhouse or traditional agriculture is we take the sun out of the equation. Of course, the plants, they still need light for photosynthesis, as we learned from our grade school biology classes. So to take sun out of that equation, we have to substitute it with something else, which is the LED lights. And once you do that, then you have to start thinking a little bit more around the airflow and the water and the nutrient management. But in basic terms, yeah, it's a rack system. It can be done in a number of different ways, vertically, horizontally, with robots, without robots, with humans. There's a number of different permutations, but that's the basic idea.
So, Haifa, let me ask you this. What are you guys doing in this space, and how does it relate to the bigger issue of food security?
So if we take a step back and look at this region specifically and take the UAE as an example, 90% of our food is important, and the rest of the region is not far off. AgTech presents itself as a viable solution to improve that, like food security challenges and water security as well challenges. As we move forward, like the population gets to grow rapidly, and AgTech will help meet that demands of food supply. As we like to present ourselves usually is that we provide that holistic approach to sustainability using AgTech as the main basis. So we focus on three main areas. We use AgTech to grow and provide high quality and locally produced fruits and vegetables. We also do a lot of R&D where we test these different AgTech technologies in this region's climate to provide input for policymakers and our international product development teams or partners. We also engage with the wider community to spread the word and awareness on AgTech. And we do that by designing school programs, interacting with food professionals, or even the general public through different events and activations.
So, Kyle, let's look at the operational side. Haifa mentioned the issue of reducing energy and water usage. What does this look like in a plant or in a factory where you'd be working one of your farms? How do you make this happen?
Great question. So if we want to look at water and energy use, let's first start with water, because we do believe that's the much more pressing and urgent issue globally, but then more specifically right here. And to be honest, actually, this is the reason why our founder several years ago decided to launch into this venture, because coming from this region, you look outside, it's clearly not well suitable for traditional agriculture. And obviously much more than that, it's the little bit of water that is here is being used at far greater rates versus what is being replenished. So looking at water, one of the biggest things we do is we use a recirculating water system. So in simple terms, what that means is we have some fresh water coming into the farm. In our case, it's typically from municipal water sources. We add to that some really high quality nutrients, and then that mix is then sent via channels into the growing media where the plants are growing. So whatever the plants don't need is recirculated, filtered, purified with UV filters as well, and then recirculated over and over again. So as long as we have really good filtration systems in place, we can keep using this water for an extended period of time. So in this recirculating system, our water consumption is extremely low. However, to do all this and to have the LED lights we mentioned earlier, we have to consider, of course, electricity needs. So if you look at how a plant would grow in this region, you have to think, okay, well, a plant needs light and it needs to also cool itself down. And the plant does that through transpiration. So it's taking water up from the roots and it's evaporating it through the leaves. So this is managed in a greenhouse with evaporative cooling. So it's a patterned fan system where water is basically cascaded down in front of a fan, which then evaporated off to cool the greenhouse. That's tremendously energy intensive in the form of the water consumption. So here in this region, during the summer months where it's quite warm, like today, 42 degrees, a greenhouse will probably use more water just for evaporative cooling than it will for the plants. So what we've done is we've closed off our structure, we've eliminated that evaporative cooling and switched to much more efficient mechanical cooling.
Looking at how you're doing it, using mechanical cooling, having these indoor setups, having really fewer people as well doing the farming because it's not as people intensive. What impact does that have on the amount of water and energy usage that you are deploying in the farms?
That's a great question. I mean, if you look at the overall agriculture industry where we are today, a lot of people are saying we're now going through the fourth agricultural revolution. And what that means is we're now seeing this really interesting convergence of a wide field of tech from a number of sectors, everything from IoT, AI, machine learning, et cetera, fields which were pretty far removed previously, like IT, is now being merged and integrated with agriculture. And what we're seeing from that is a couple things. One is that more traditional agricultural practices are being merged with more well-established, let's call them manufacturing practices or more IT type of practices. So straight away, the businesses themselves are becoming more streamlined and efficient. Now there you get some benefits in the SG&A and the management side of things. On the tech side of things, the innovations we're seeing here are really around hardware efficiencies. So for example, smart energy monitoring, understanding exactly where my energy is going in the farm, which devices are using it, consuming how much, they're running efficiently. These are all very, very important operational questions for us. Beyond that, more specifically, LED lighting is probably one of the main areas of research. I mean, that's one of the primary energy drivers in the farm. So as the companies who supply these LED lights keep doing research and development, they're making those light fixtures more efficient. The whole farm becomes more efficient, right? Converting more energy, more electricity energy to light that the plants can use, and dissipating less as heat means I have to have smaller cooling systems. I can have thinner sandwich panels, et cetera. So it's this nice virtuous cycle that happens there. So in summary, we can say that tech is basically helping the entire business itself become more efficient. And that's really key because at the end of the day, we have a lot of mouths to feed, not just in the UAE, but worldwide. And that number of mouths is increasing daily. The external environmental pressures are also increasing daily. So for us to hit that key critical mass and that key scale, we also need to be able to bring fruits and vegetables to the plate at a price point that consumers are willing to pay. And again, that's where the efficiencies of scale and technology are really going to benefit.
And looking at the size of the operations, we're not talking about what we would imagine in terms of a large farmer's field. That's what really surprises me and is amazing about this technology. It's a very small footprint.
Absolutely. And we can multiply on that even further when we take these systems vertically. In our current operations, we are using some vertical systems and shipping containers, and that's just kind of our small R&D scale project. And already something as small as a shipping container can produce the equivalent field output of 5 to 6 football fields. Taking the concept even further, you can imagine now making that warehouse structure we talked about previously, you can imagine making that several meters tall. Well, very soon you're talking about small footprints of land that can generate a tremendous amount of locally available produce. And not only that, if you choose your location correctly, you can actually have that produce made and grown close to your population centers, cutting down on a number of other overheads and transportation costs.
So let me ask the big question to both of you. How much is this technology and this approach going to revolutionize farming?
So how much is technology going to revolutionize farming? I do think it's going to be a fundamental shift. If we put ourselves into our children's shoes for a moment and fast forward, say, 20 or 30 years, when you ask our kids or our kids' kids, what does a farm look like? You're going to have a great number of them saying, well, it looks like that warehouse over there, or it's going to look like a shipping container, right? I think that our fundamental concept of what a farm is and what a farm looks like is actually shifting. Again, for a number of environmental and socioeconomic pressures, we're going to see a continued decrease in field agriculture around the world. Things like the recent COVID pandemic have, of course, highlighted the different massive issues we have in the food supply systems, getting the food from the fields to the end consumer in a timely and safe fashion. All this is being completely changed and looked at now. If we're moving away from fields and moving towards urban centers, we're cutting out the supply chain, we're cutting out all the different risks there as well. We can put more fresh, more nutritional produce on the plate for people day to day, which is going to revolutionize the way we look at food and where it comes from.
I love that image, Carl, you're just giving me of children in the future saying, this is how a farm looks, mummy and daddy, reimagining how we do agriculture.
Absolutely right. It's been really exciting because, Madra Farms, we're a small organization and our families do play a part in it. And it's been tremendously exciting seeing not just the reaction of my daughter, but also other school kids as they've come and engaged with our different education platforms. And to see that kids can take a little seedling growing in an LED illuminated hydroponic setup. And for them, they don't even question that. That's as normal as tapping on their iPad screen to play Minecraft. So for them, they don't have these misconceptions or these, notions about what a farmer has to look like. And for them, they're quite happy to eat that product without challenging it to the same way adults would today. It's very exciting.
Well, fantastic. Thank you both. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Haifa from Madal Farms. I am sure that you are going to be the future of agriculture in the region. You can already order as consumers online through Madal Farms. And thank you as well for listening in, everyone, today. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and stay tuned for next week's episode. Till then, take care.